Alright guys, welcome to another beer review, and today we're looking at a classic and one that I actually thought I'd reviewed on the channel, like one of the first reviews that I'd ever done. But I have reviewed it in the past when I was doing stuff on the Mondo Squalido channel, which is that way, and when I was doing beer reviews on the now defunct Planet-Sized Crocodile channel, I think it was called. But apparently I've not actually done a dedicated review to this beer as the Clueless Drinker, so I thought I'd rectify that, even though maybe by the time you see this I will have done the first in a series of live reviews where I'll be looking at solely supermarket real ale sort of beers, you know, sort of like reviews to cater to people getting into the world of craft beer and real ale, because I'm still learning. And what knowledge I have gained from this, I'd like to be able to share it with people who, like me, just a few years ago, were too afraid to go into like a bottle shop because all this range, then you see the prices of some beers. Of course, you come to appreciate that the prices you pay, it makes sense because of the sheer ingredients that go into beers and their shipping and all that sort of thing. But when you're getting into the world of craft beer and real ale, it can be a little bit daunting. So if you've not already seen that, and I have uploaded it with hopefully a few of my fellow UK beer tubers, then that link will be down below. But yeah, we're going over to the Wychwood Brewery, which is of course part of Marston's, and this is the classic Hobgoblin, clocking in at 4.5%, and this is the canned version, which I've never had this beer out of can before. I don't even think I've ever had it on cask, just in the bottles, and in the bottle I really like Wychwood, and this is a beer that I've drank plenty of times, especially when I was getting into the world of real ale and craft beer. Like when you go to the supermarkets and you've got this 4 for £6 deal or 3 for £5.25, whatever, it changes depending on which place you go to. Chances are, even though I buy 2 or 3 newer beers to me, this one would always be put into the shopping basket because I think it's a dependable beer. Now, some people will say, well, quite a lot of people say actually, that prior to Marston's taking over Wychwood, that this was a much superior beer. Now, I can completely understand that, but I don't have that experience of drinking it pre-Marston's takeover, so I can't make that jump and I can't make that claim. So to me, this is what Hobgoblin has tasted all of my drinking life, if that makes sense. But yeah, anyway, and no, my hair's not greasy, it's just been really stormy today and very rainy, and I thought I'd warm myself up with a nice Hobgoblin, and I'm going to be doing myself some baked gnocchi with pesto, so really warming the cockles there. Anyway, but yeah, I picked up a 4-pack of this from Aldi for £4. So £4 for 4 cans of 500ml beer. You know, the tight-fisted bugger in me loves that, and I'm a real advocate for good, affordable alcohol. And I think there's a hell of a lot out there in the supermarkets. But yeah, it'd be interesting to try this in a can. So 4.5%, it's a ruby ale, of course, traditionally crafted legendary ruby beer, brewed with roasted malts for a well-balanced, rich, smooth taste, full of mischievous character. Not too much information on the can, just of course the usual address of the brewery and that sort of thing, and the social media platforms. Best before date on this can is the 30th of the 9th, 2018, so I'm guessing that, well, this is my rule of thumb. He actually puts his thumb up. This is my rule of thumb, that best before dates always seem to be a year. I've just found that. Of course, you've got some of these like IPAs that are being released now where they've got like a 3-month shelf life. You know, so it changes, but I always use the rule of thumb that a brewery, especially a big brewery, uses, like they give it a year's shelf life. And if that is the case, that's quite a fresh beer by all accounts. I mean, a few months old at least, but being in the can, it shouldn't hopefully be affected anyhow. And of course, it's cream pied all over my hand. Oh well. And yeah, this has been in the fridge, and some will say it probably is a little bit too chilled, but it's one of those instances where I've had this beer so many times, I know what to expect. So yeah, hopefully, I mean, it's not been in the fridge long because I've not long since come back from the supermarket where I picked it up. But beer in a glass then, and yeah, exactly what I'd expect to be dark ruby ale. Of course, it looks a lot darker on camera, but when you look at it here, it's got that sort of like almost Ribena look to it. Lovely clarity. It's got like a slight nuttiness to it as well, so it's not like a bright red, but it's a bold red with subtle amber brown tones. Nice clarity. Beer poured with 2 fingers worth of a tan coloured head, slightly off-white actually. And yeah, it's a very handsome looking beer. So, let's see what we get on the aroma, if I can get through that head. It's got like this sort of like jamminess about it, like a raspberry jam character. Then you get a lovely caramel malt presence coming through that. Sort of reminds me of like malted milk biscuits as well. Maybe you've like sandwiched them together because you've been a bit naughty with some jam. That sort of thing. Yeah, it is a very sweet smelling beer by all accounts, but not sickly sweet. A little bit desserty. Fruity, cakey, biscuity, that sort of thing. Lovely balance, lovely symphony of sweetness. Symphony of sweetness, that's a good one. Very subtle muskiness as that head's dying down. A little bit of earthiness as well, but not too much. It is predominantly sweeter, and it's more jammy than anything else, which is really, really nice. Anyway, let's give it a taste. Cheers. It's not as sweet on the taste, but the sweetness you're getting is like a tart, berry-like character. Almost has like a slight cherryness to it, as well as being a bit raspberry-like. Earthy, spicy, hop character. The bitterness comes through a lot, actually, than you would expect off the nose. Medium mouthfeel. Not too drying on the back end. It's got this nice sense of boldness to it. And I find that ruby ales, for the most part, are just so uninspired and dull. But this one actually has some character to it. I mean, it's never going to blow you away or anything like that. Even though Wychwood does have a really loyal and quite nice to see that they've got a really nice loyal fan base. And I think that's a good thing because they've got really good brand identity. They like to communicate well with their fans and drinkers and regular drinkers, that sort of thing. They like to have a little bit of fun. Some of their seasonal beers are, for me, the better beers. But then again, some of the seasonals are really hit and miss at the same time. But I think for a macro brewery, essentially that's what they are under the umbrella of Marston's. I think this is a really, really solid beer. And the availability, the price that you usually pay for it, I mean, come on. 4 cans for $3.99. It's one of those ones where you just pick up a couple of 4-packs when you're doing your shopping. And this will always be a beer that I will go back to time and time again. And that's refreshing for me because I'm not a fan of the style because it just doesn't really do much for me. But this actually does. And part of me actually wants to know what this tasted like pre-Marston's takeover. But as it tastes now, I think this is a lovely, lovely drop. It's a great example of the style. Very sessionable. It's got sweetness, it's got muskiness, it's got a little bit of earthiness. It's peppery, spicy tones as well. No overpowering flavours. Really nice and balanced. And yeah, I can't fault it too much. So in terms of a rating then, on Wychwood Hobgoblin, I'm going to give that one a very solid 8.5 out of 10. It's the pricing and availability that just helps boost it as well, because again, like I said, the style is not my thing, and I can't think of many other ruby ales that I would drink on a regular basis like this one. And the great thing about this beer is it's great for cooking. I've made like stews with this, made like nice meaty pies with it, sausage casseroles, that sort of thing. Very versatile in terms of its cuisine aspect. Pairs well with a lot of great food as well. Perfect pub grub sort of beer for me personally. But at the same time, it could actually work for like a curry. Very versatile, but most importantly, it's a very solid, sessionable drink. Really nice and flavoursome, and gives the style a bit of fresh air. And that's why I really like this beer. So if you've tried this one, then of course let me know your thoughts, opinions down below. If you're a fan of Wychwood, if you're a fan of Marston's, there's no right or wrong answer with opinions, of course. Unless, well, some people say there are, but let's not get into that. But yeah, so of course, if any of my friends and fellow beer tubers have reviewed this one, their reviews are down below. Check out Marston's, check out Wychwood, check out my Wychwood playlist and my Marston's playlist, because I think for a big company, the breweries that Marston's have do produce some of the better, more mass-produced real ales out there, for me personally. So I've got a lot of time for both Wychwood and Marston's. And even when you go to one of their pubs, you probably get your pedigree and stuff like that, but if they've got some seasonals on and they rotate their beer supply, then you're in for a solid beer, which is what you can expect, and the price isn't going to rape your wallet or anything like that. Anyway, check out all those links down below. Check out the live review if we have actually indeed done it by the time you see this one. I never remember this information when I'm uploading videos. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I am about to cook, so I shall hopefully see you next time. Cheers.